reaching out to the show. It's so great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into your life in the world of music and jazz.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is pretty exciting. You got your debut album out.
yeah, it's very exciting.
I
Yeah,
love it.
and kind of scary.
Yeah. So let's before we get into that, I want to know.
Yeah.
4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic, and the
Mm-hmm.
different places in the world reacted in different ways, but it really went through the artistic community in a very specific way. How did you
Yeah.
get through that time period, and how was this album influenced by it, or how did it change the way
Mm-hmm.
that you do things now?
Well, actually, it was kind of the start for me because I also teach. So I haven't really been writing music that much before. Uh, Actually, I went to Berkeley many, many years ago, and that's when I started to write music. But then when I came back home to Sweden, I had to get a music teacher's degree also. And so I started working, and I I had children, and so I kind of like changed focus for a while. But actually, the pandemic was like a new start for me because I had more time. I found that I had more time. Things got canceled, and I also found all of these charts that I actually wrote at Berkeley, but they were all like handwritten. So I took some time to write them in a music program, and but they were all instrumental. And so I wrote them there, and then I showed my husband. He's a tenor saxophone player, and he's also in the band.
Yeah.
uh yeah, and he's like, okay, you got to do something with this. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't have a band. What do you think I should do? So but I started to ask around, and I had kind of like this wish list, because this was hard for me. This was, um, it took a lot of courage. Uh, that's also the name of the album in Swedish, Mood. That's courage. Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah. So it took a lot of courage for me to actually, I haven't thought of myself as a composer or arranger. Uh, but so I had this wish list. I knew I needed great musicians, but I also needed like really kind and nice people, that I could feel comfortable with. So that was like actually the first thing on this list. But then I needed like really great musicians, and they also had to be able to read music really well, because everything was written, like bass lines, piano, voicings, sometimes the drum groove, so and I actually took the time during the pandemic to ask around, and then I got this band on paper, but we couldn't rehearse. So I had this band, and that made me write again. So I hadn't been writing music for like 20 years, and then I actually started again, and I found that it was just really, really rewarding and fun, and I love the creative process.
So this has to feel so refreshing after all of this time to have
Yeah,
your initial debut album come out in the jazz world. So
yeah, and
how does
also
it
scary.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why was there such a gap between Berkeley and putting this album out?
I think, living family life took a
Yeah.
lot of energy, and also working. And I didn't, I think I didn't know what I knew. I sang in a gospel choir for many, many years. But I knew I wanted to do something else, but I didn't really know what. It wasn't that clear to me what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to sing, and I've always known that. And I wanted to do something with music, but just to, you know, I could just as easily just, be in somebody else's band and sing backup choir or something, you know.
Yeah.
So I hadn't really thought of myself as a band leader. I think it was that was a hard thing for me to think of myself as a band leader. But since this was my music, I had no choice. I had to kind of like be the band leader, even though that was really new and very challenging. So everything in this album, I've done a lot of things for the first time.
Yeah. What are you hoping the listener gets from this debut album?
I hope that I have a very honest approach. So everything that I sing in Swedish is just very honest, you know. So, uh so I hope they can hear that. And I also hope that they get surprised in some way, because I think on this album, there's 11 tracks, but they're very different from each other. So it's not like you've heard the first 3 and then you're like, "Okay, I know what album this is." And so I also think I hope that the listener gets surprised in some way, and I think it can be both, like, harmonically, melodically or something,
Yeah.
but it's just very honest, and I didn't wanna, like, compromise to, get the album to be, in any way, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So how did this journey into the music and singing and jazz, how did all of this begin for you? And how did it take hold?
Sing I always wanted to sing since I was a little child. I listened to Whitney Houston and I wanted to be her, you know? And so I always wanted to sing and I've always known that. But like I haven't seen myself as a jazz singer, uh, because I've sung a lot of genres, and I also, I love neo soul. I've listened to a lot of soul music, so I think that kind of had to grow on me. I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe like um, in the process of doing this album, I think.
So what was the first live jazz show you ever saw that blew you away?
That was a hard question. I don't remember. Actually, I think maybe at Berkeley, I remember going to one of the Berkeley concerts with the gospel choir there, and it was so like amazing for me because the band was just so amazing. The energy was just it was cooking, and the gospel choir sang, and like the whole crowd was like cheering and standing and answering, and like a soloist would sing something and somebody would answer in the crowd, and I'm like, oh, this is new to me. I've never experienced this before. And I felt like this is home also in a way, that energy. Because in Sweden, it's different. You go to a really great concert, but you sit on your chair all the concert through. And maybe if it's really great, then you stand up in the end, and you clap your hands. But it's not like that.
Yeah.
So that was amazing, I think.
Who have been influences? Who have you looked up to? Who have you kind of emulated in the world of jazz?
In the world of jazz. Ooh, yeah, I think my way into jazz was Kurt Elling and, maybe Joni Mitchell too.
Yeah.
But actually Kurt Elling, when I was at Berkeley, he had a clinic there, but I didn't know who he was, so I didn't go. And that was kinda like the worst thing ever because I had, my roommate was like, this amazing guy had this clinic, and so that was the start for me. I started to listen to him, and I like his approach to jazz because it's not like this, uh, it's kind of like he can sing more like a rock singer sometimes,
Yeah.
and I kind of like that energy. It's like, because I listened to one of my biggest idols before was Erica Badu also, like,
Yeah.
and the Roots. And so I think Kurt Elling had that, but he was singing jazz.
Yeah.
So I think that was my way in. But then I love Esperanza Spalding and many many great musicians. She actually went to Berkeley the
Yeah.
same time, yeah,
Oh, okay.
as I did. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So, you've obviously you're coming back, you're releasing your debut. You clearly love what you do. What is the
yeah.
best part about being a professional musician for you?
I think it's the creative part, I think. And also like I like sitting home and kind of figuring something out and then, you know, giving it to the musicians see what they can do with that. It's my initial thoughts and my melodies and my chords, but they do something with it, and so I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So why do you love jazz?
I think it's because I think it's the energy when not even the musicians know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's something about creating something in the present moment, right here, right now. So
Yeah.
every other night is a new gig, and a new solos, and so I think that's the thing.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one jazz show, where are you gonna go? Who
Oh,
would you love to see?
Kurt Elling, I think.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah,
So at the end of the day, everyone out there has an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one that's running the show. What's your
yeah.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm honest. I think I don't want to like be somebody. I don't want to live up to something. I just want to present my thoughts and uh, my music the way it is. And I think I haven't thought about it that way.
That's fine. That's a great
Yeah.
answer. What what about live shows? What are you doing for live shows to promote Move?
Actually, I'm having a release show in September now, 28th of September. That's the first one, and then we're having some more concerts this fall.
Okay.
Yeah,
So if anyone wants to pick up the album, they want to catch you live,
yeah.
anything else that's going on in your world, where's the best place for them to go?
They can go to my Instagram or they can go to my. I have a website, annamarianordstrom.com. So
Okay.
it's my name.com. Yeah.
I
Or they
love it.
can find me on Spotify or iTunes.
Yeah, they can stream. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
has been wonderful. Thank you so much for reaching out to the show. I'm so glad to get your story out. Looking forward to
yeah.
profiling the music. So thank you.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
bet.